dedicated Messiah's channel. Kindly make sure you like the video, you subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment at the comment section. Today we are discussing the Schlieffen plan, what the Schlieffen plan was about, what it was dependent on, and why it failed. So history tells us that around the 1900s, Europe was characterized by a series of wars, which made Europe primed at war around this time, say around the 1914. And around this time, Britain was also complicated. It had no firm decision as to supporting its alliances, that is France and Russia. This was the time that Germany was also trying to prevent itself against a two-war front, that is fighting itself against France and Russia. In order to avoid these two front wars, the general around that time, the General Alfred von Schlieffen, initiated the Schlieffen plan. This plan was for them to capture Paris, and in order to do that, the plan initiated or demanded that Germany will attack France through the Netherlands and Belgium. So the moment they capture Belgium, it would take Russia some time to mobilize its armies, but then they would have been able to capture Paris. But you see, this plan, I call it the weaknesses of the plan. This plan was dependent on three things. That is, one, it was dependent on Germany's speed in conquering or attacking or covering Belgium. Secondly, the Schlieffen plan's success was also dependent on Britain staying out of war. And thirdly, it was also dependent on the fact that Russia, in mobilizing its soldiers, would do that in a slow space. On the count of it, the German soldiers or German leaders gambled that it would take Russia at least 6 weeks before they'll be able to mobilize soldiers. Now, why did the plan fail? Because the plan looked so good on paper, but lacked practicality. Belgium, even though the army wasn't as strong as that of Germany, did not or was not alone. Even though around 1914, Britain hadn't made any firm decisions to support or be or form any support with France and Russia, it had a promise with Belgium in 1834. The promise of protecting Belgium or protecting Belgium's neutrality should it get attacked is one thing that I feel that the Germany or the German leaders should have thought of. But because Britain hadn't made any firm decisions to support France or Russia, they gambled that Britain would stay out of war. And so one thing that led to the failure of the Schlieffen plan was the fact that Britain did not stay out of it. While the German soldiers trooped into Belgium and they were able to conquer the Belgians, now one, they felt that the German soldiers would not have enough strength to fight them. But voila, the Belgians were able to fight them. And even to the extent that Britain sent about 80,000 army soldiers into Belgium to support them in the war, which means that the point or the reason or one of the reasons that Germany thought their plan could work had become futile, because they had thought or gambled that this Britain will not intervene in the war, but they did, which led to failure of the plan. Now, Germany also underestimated the distance they had to cover in Belgium. They had miscalculated the distance. They had fought in their wars for weeks, to the extent that their soldiers had exhausted. Their soldiers got exhausted on the way and couldn't even keep up the pace until the British army came into contact with them. So one of the reasons that the Schlieffen plan failed, one, is because Germany had underestimated the distance they had to cover in Belgium, and even underestimated the strength of the Belgian army. Two was that they thought Britain would stay out of war, which Britain did not, because Britain had to fulfill her promise of protecting Belgium's neutrality. Then, by the time Britain even strategically retreated from the war, they had killed most of the German soldiers, and they had made sure that most of the German soldiers were exhausted. Around this time, Russia had gotten the hint trooped into Paris to protect the city, which means that Russia had gotten the chance to mobilize its armies. So the three things that the success of the Schlieffen plan was dependent on all became futile. One, the Schlieffen plan, which was the success dependent on German speed. German speed, as at that time, was low because they had miscalculated the distance they had to cover in Belgium. Two, they had assumed that Britain was going to stay out of war, but Britain actually sent men to defend Belgium, even though they retreated at the end. And three, Russia did not slow down in mobilizing its soldiers. Due to the exhaustion of the German army, when the Britain army came in, Russia got enough time to mobilize its army, which led to the failure of the Schlieffen plan. So when we talk about the Schlieffen plan, we are just talking about the plan that was made by General Alfred von Schlieffen to help Germany avoid a two-front war against France and Russia, where the plan was for France to be attacked through the Netherlands or Belgium. That is all about the Schlieffen plan. This is just a summary of the Schlieffen plan. Please like, share, and leave a comment. Thank you.